They're doing, they're
Okay.
doing some buildings up there.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
You always wanted to use that, didn't you?
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, May 2nd, 2022. Time to call this Franklin City Council meeting to order. Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese with the prayer and pledge, please.
I invite you to join me. Our Father, we come to you this evening, and we're so grateful for another opportunity to gather in this hall and consider the matters and business of our city. I do want to pray tonight for the residents of our city, just for their health and well-being and their flourishing. And I just thank you for those who you've brought to our community. I just pray for their well-being. Thank you for these public servants on the council, as well as those that are represented by the chief of our police department, fire department, and all the departments in our city. Continue to bless the great work that they do, and we'll give you the thanks for it. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Stand together for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Again, welcome everybody here. Is there any announcements, presentations, or public comment that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will close that segment and go on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move to read old business by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read by title only, old business. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number one, right into it. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 22-09, an additional appropriation drug-free Johnson County 2022 grant fund supplies an amount of $7,042.62. Police Chief Kirby Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. Just here for the second reading on the appropriation of the drug-free Johnson County grant funds in the amount of $7,042.62. And that's for narcotic surveillance equipment to be purchased.
Okay, and at this time, we will open it up for public hearing. Is there anyone have any questions either from the council or from the audience for Chief Cochran? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. So we are now ready to act.
Move to approve Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 22-09.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mayor, move to read new business by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read new business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, new business item number one, Common Council Resolution number 22-04, a declaratory resolution designating an economic revitalization area for Al Nair RE LLC, Community Development Specialist Dana Monson.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to request approval for a declaratory resolution for an economic revitalization designation for the two parcels that are listed in the staff report located on the southwest corner of Paul Hand and Graham Road. The EDC met and reviewed this case, and they do recommend approval of the ERA designation and the tax abatement if you approve this tonight that we'll be discussing next week. This new project from Al Nair, they are a new company here to, a new developer to Franklin. They are headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. They're a 100-plus-year-old company. They have worked extensively in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and they're now moving into Indiana. So we're really excited to have new developers here. They work with a lot of brand name, very well-known, well-respected clients on logistics and manufacturing plants. This first project is going to consist of a 1 million square foot spec building that will be located in the little orange area that you will see there below. Eventually, the park will move on into having 7, possibly 8 buildings of a wide variety of sizes. If this is approved tonight, the company will be back for a more detailed explanation of what this project is going to be at our next meeting on May 16th. This land does sit in an opportunity zone. It is annexed and zoned as industrial. That does meet the requirements of the comp plan, which has also designated this area to be an industrial development. The first step, as you know, in this process is to have the declaratory resolution approved for the ERA. Then at the next meeting, we will have the confirmatory, we will have the public hearing for that meeting, for that as well. And finally, we will hear the request for the tax abatement. Mr. Taylor was at the meetings as well, and also Melissa Johnson and Jacob Everett are here from the company, should you have any questions about this. But Mr. Taylor, if you have anything to add to this.
We actually had, they came in twice. We had a special meeting, second time, just to get a little bit more information because a lot of the people on the board were, worried about with the number of buildings coming in, employment, all those type of things. And they came back with a very good package on projects they had done in the past, how they're, some special things that they're planning on trying to use there with the railroad access and other things that property can set them apart from others that are being built in Whiteland and even on the other side of 65 here. So, and we were all in approval of the abatement at that time, and we were able to come to an agreement at that time after the second meeting because they did bring a lot more information to us at that time.
Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
You say they're from Cincinnati?
Yes, sir. Headquartered there. You originated in Cincinnati.
Is there anything you can do about the Reds?
I was going to say.
We can try.
Some of us do go to those games down there once in a
I
while.
saw that in the newspaper today. We could probably give them a run for their money. This council playing them today.
Lynn, I think I have a question. I know Friday,
Yes, sir.
we meet on Fridays, and I ask you about this one.
Yeah.
If this is introduction, or if it can be acted on tonight.
Yeah, we can act on the resolution that is before you, and all you are doing is setting it for a hearing at the next May 16th. I have the
Yes,
date right?
That's correct.
Where there will be a confirmatory resolution presented to you. So this is so yes, you can act on this resolution. You are not necessarily making this an ERA designation, but it's the first step required. Then we'll publish it. We're having it next meeting on May 16th, and then we'll have a public hearing on whether or not it should be an ERA designation. And ERA does not mean earn, run, average, Bob. It relates to the Reds.
But Lynn, the Economic Development Commission has found that they are in approval of the ERA designation, the Indiana Code Section 6-1.1, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, correct.
A through E.
Right.
Correct.
They've made that recommendation, but ultimately the decision is council's after a public hearing.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'll move for approval of the resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're ready to move to the next
Thank
step.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item. Common Council Budgetary Resolution Number 22-04, authorizing a transfer from Grants, Parks, Ethos, Art Show Fund Supplies 2403-001-200 to Grants, Parks, Ethos, Art Show Fund Services 2403-001-300 in the amount of $5,000. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes. Or Chip Warner.
I'm pinch hitting for Jane Rhodes,
Okay.
the Reds. We recently, yeah,
We got a baseball theme going here tonight. All right.
pinch hitting. So we got a grant from for the Ethos Art Show. When it was originally appropriated, it all went into 200, which means we could only buy supplies with it. We're asking to move half of it to 300, which now we can do some professional services with it. It's just a housekeeping thing. I'm not asking for any more money. It's the same amount of the grant money we had before. It's just putting it in the right pot.
So since it's not new money, we can act on it tonight.
Yeah, that's correct, sir.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will go to the next item. Thank you, Chip.
Home run, Chip.
Common Council Ordinance Number 22-02, establishing a policy for use of alcohol on city property and designating fines for violations for introduction and discussion only. City Attorney Lane Gray.
Thank you. My apologies, Mayor, and to Lisa, since you heard us at Board of Works, but by way of background, currently, we post signs on our city properties that prohibit the use of alcohol. It has come to, the way that historical this issue came up is with the amphitheater. We have spent the last probably 6 months, negotiating alcohol vendor agreements for our amphitheater and our community events that will be going on down there. We have secured the services of Mallow Run, also Shale Creek Brewing, and the Elks Club, who will be the alcohol provider for all of our events that we have. Chip reached out to Chief Cochran to discuss how shall we enforce the alcohol regulations. There are numerous ones that are applicable. Chip reminded me at the Board of Works, the excise rules and regulations do not permit people to bring outside alcohol in to events that are going on. We had that same prohibition at our festivals. Those of you who are golfers will often see when you go into a golf course, they say no alcohol is outside. A lot of those are related to excise rules. You also have a series of rules and regulations, laws, if you will, for the abuse of alcohol in any circumstance. Obviously, minor consumption, in public intoxication, driving, and those kind of things. So you have a lot of different rules and regulations that are applicable. On our city property, we have the authority. The Board of Works is the designated agent that makes the decisions regarding use of the city property, and currently we post signs that say outside alcohol is not permitted on city property. We do have circumstances where alcohol is served, i.e. rentals at Beeson Hall, that would occur. Someone comes in, they apply, and then they have to get the appropriate insurance. So we have various things that go on and off, but various policies that are in place. But I was a bit surprised when this issue came up that the city has never adopted a citywide policy. We've had one ad hoc that the department heads are tasked with enforcing, but we've not had anything that's a citywide policy with any consistency, nor would we have any ability for the police, if someone were to bring outside alcohol in to an event at the amphitheater. We could ask them to leave. We have that authority, but we could not fine them or enforce anything. I looked at several different policies for other communities that have similar types of activities. We have specifically Greenwood and their Wham Fest, Greenwood and their symphonies, Fishers, Carmel. I think those were the three that I looked at that had a variety of activities, and all of them seemed to be moving towards a uniform policy. So we thought perhaps this would be a good time to have this discussion, and it is a policy discussion. So the park board obviously monitors some property or is in charge of overseeing some property. The Board of Works oversees the remaining city property that we have, so we kind of wanted it to be consistent. So Chip is taking this drafted policy to the park board to get their input. Tonight, we gave it to the Board of Works members to get their input, and then I'm bringing it to you for your input. What I foresee happening is we'll get something from the park board, then the Board of Works will get it, and then ultimately at the end, it would be for your decision with regard to whether or not there would be fines if there is a violation of that. Because as you know, as the legislative body, in order for us to fine anybody, it requires the council to pass that. So it's a long process. As I said, we're still going to open the amphitheater hopefully on time, and we're still going to have our vendors and things, but I think it's something we need to take look at so that we have some consistency going forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do anticipate that at some point we'll have public input after you've gotten the benefit of the park board as well as the Board of Works. So with that, I'll be quiet.
Let's see. Kirby, not to put you on the spot, but would this help your guys to enforce things? That would be my question on it. Does it help you, hurt you? What, as a police department, what's your stance on it?
Right now, just being candid about it, there's no way to cover all the.
No, yeah.
So you would have to, you just were going to allow alcohol that was there from vendors or whatever, you mentioned it earlier, Lynn, how they had roped off like, had to.
Beer gardens or whatever, yeah.
So, it's never been about the alcohol, it's always about the behavior, so.
Yeah.
And that's, no matter where you have it at, you're gonna have those issues, so. I don't know, I agree that there needs to be a policy, probably for liability reasons, but on the same token, we are still only able to enforce the behaviors based on the alcohol.
And there are a lot of moving pieces, and there are a lot of, well, for instance, our vendors, really, they're investing, having people there, they're investing, bringing their product and things, and they really want to be the exclusive vendors for that. So it's really important to them. It's important from a liability standpoint to our insurance company. I don't know what the excise folks would do if there were a problem for the licenses of the people that are the vendors there. We have, I think, Chip, you mentioned that sometimes we have people, go ahead, Chip, why don't you share the examples? Because it's kind of hard to, just having an ad hoc discussion without having at least some basic policy in place to have any uniformity at all for citizens to know what to expect.
Yeah, there's so many excise laws that go into place when you're in an amphitheater. I think at the Board of Works meeting, we've probably all been to Ruoff or some kind of concert or something. You can't bring alcohol in there, right? It's because of excise. And it's also exactly what Linda said. It's also the exclusivity of the vendor that's there that invested all the time and money and all that. You don't want outside alcohol in. We have been in discussions for months about do we even allow coolers in the facility, because there again, if we allow it, that's just asking people to bring it in. And then I got to hire security and I got to go through everybody's coolers, and then it becomes a really slogged down in trying to get people in this facility. It's not just the amphitheater. I was talking at the Board of Works that, my gosh, alcohol in parks have been around forever. If you played softball in the 80s and 90s, you thought that was part of the league. Thought that's what you were signing up for. It's not necessarily the case. So we need a policy in place like this. We got into a little bit of discussion at the Board of Works, what I thought was a good discussion about, well, do we allow it in one situation and we do not allow it in the other? I thought of an even better idea out between the meetings. Could you imagine if we allowed alcohol at Scott Park during a Little League baseball game?
Yeah.
We don't have enough police officers for that, alone everything else. So I think you need a policy in place. So I've gotten, if you were here, you heard this joke. It wasn't a joke. We had a family reunion at the Province Park that literally had a keg set up. And they tapped it and were drinking, and one of the police officers went over and says, hey, you're not allowed to do that, and they got combative with them and all kinds of stuff, and well, they can make them leave, but that's pretty much it. So if we want teeth in this stuff to help the police officers when they do get in that situation, I think you need some kind of policy in place.
And I think you've had issues at the park, right? I mean, I'm sorry, the pool, the swimming pool.
And I said that at the Board of Works. It's a normal occurrence in parks. That's why I'm not shocked about any of this discussion. We drag people. I shouldn't say this. It's probably on camera. We drag drunk people out of the aquatic center every year. I mean, people will conceal it. They'll do everything they can to bring it in, and we still have to monitor and do that kind of stuff. I do think the amphitheaters are a little different animal because I do think you got excise laws and that kind of thing that kind of help us, not hurt us. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why we have everything blocked off. You see a rope and you're like, what's that stupid little rope? The rope is designating what the alcohol area is. So you can take it out of it, just what we normally have done. If you think of the beer garden behind the courthouse, you can take it out of there if you have the entire place roped off, because that's your alcohol area. We got smart about 5 years ago. If you recall, when you go to a festival, you could only keep it in this little area behind the courthouse, and then it got too big and we couldn't do that, so we had to expand the area. Well, now the amphitheater's even more expanded, so we have plenty of area to do it, but we don't want to fight with people. I don't want to get into confrontations with people about what's in your igloo or what's in the 3 coolers you're carrying with you, and we don't want to get into that kind of stuff. So, or we're gonna have to hire security to do that.
Right.
One or the other.
Right. And just to be clear, that's what our policy is now.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to. Now, I think we exercise discretion. As Brett Jones said, have you ever been to a T-ball game? I don't think he can go there without a beer. So we've exercised some discretion, but I think it's only fair to the citizens that they know what that policy is.
Yeah, and the policy we've been running with for years, I've been here 16 years, is I'm not saying we've never had alcohol in parks, because we have. They just come to the park board and get the permission to do it beforehand. For example, Rotary has had a concert in the park before where they had Mallow Run come and do like wine and cheese, and of course we'll do those kind of events. We just don't allow people to bring case in and go to Palmer Park and 22-year-olds get drunk and belligerent and fight, and then 8 cops have to show up, and that happens 50 days a year. That's the two extremes.
Or the basketball courts.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep it simple, right? I mean, and I think we need to, do the plan as written. It looks like you've got $500 for first fine and $250,
Right.
correct? And that's not going to be finalized until the next meeting, correct?
Well, and it may be even after that. That's why I made sure it was discussion only, so that we could get it out for the public. I think I had a couple of phone calls, and they said, well, we can't have alcohol. I said, you can't have alcohol in the park right now. And they go, oh, we didn't know that. Okay. So I didn't get a lot of pushback, but since the park board does operate many of our facilities, I think it might be helpful to you if you got their feedback first before we actually had a public meeting, and then the Board of Works will get the feedback from the park board, then the Board of Works will give you their feedback, and then we'll put it on the agenda for a public hearing at that point.
Great. I think signage would be important as well, specifically at the amphitheater.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things. We've had it on park signs for years and years. It's just, there's never been any teeth to it.
Right. And Chip's right. I mean, we rent Beeson Hall for wedding receptions. We, of course, but at that point in time, we're able to vet who's doing it and the insurance and those kind of things, so.
So can I speak about the insurance just a little bit?
Sure.
So the alcohol vendors have been raised up to $2 million a policy this year, and it's always been $1 million. Well, one of the questions, and I know Josh here was the exalted ruler at the Elks last year, and the Elks is having trouble getting that insurance, but one of the questions that was asked, and I'm not on any board at the Elks anymore, thank goodness, so I'm just there when I go. But what I'm saying is, this insurance company asked the Elks specific question: if we cover you, does the city have a policy about alcohol? So in other words, they was telling them if there's no written policy, then they wasn't going to cover. And the reason that they gave that, okay, if lo and behold somebody does get drunk and leaves and has a bad accident and somebody gets hurt or killed, then they want to make sure that whenever they get sued, that the city has done our homework and not open them up for liability, we could get sued as well, which we'll probably get sued anyway. However, if we have a policy in place, that does help our case in that manner. Mm-hmm. So.
And you're right, and I talked to Drew Eggers, who's representing the Elks today. By way of background, John Auld, our insurance agent, wanted $3 million. And I understand. And we previously had $1 million, and trying to compromise for our vendors who could actually comply, and our insurance company he probably wanted $30 million if he could get it. You can't. Trying to do some compromise there, and it was that point I discovered we didn't have a written policy, and quite frankly, I was surprised that we didn't. And I think that certainly will help us with liability. It's been our policy. It just hasn't been written down and adopted.
Let's get it taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your input.
Is there, everybody ready to move on? We'll move on. Next one, annual reports for the City of Franklin Redevelopment Commission and Redevelopment Authority, Community Development Director Krista Linke.
Good evening. Krista Linke, Community Development Director, and we did kind of go over this at the joint council and school board meeting last Monday. But I did email this to you as well. This Gateway TIF Management Report is actually Jane's report that she submits each year to the state. And so this can be found, searched by anyone in the general public. But this basically gives you the basics of the Redevelopment Commission, so members, and then revenues that were received for the year and expenses paid. So you can see those are our TIF districts in the amended and integrated TIF, and then US 31 at the bottom. So revenue, 4.8 million, and expenses paid just over 5 million. So we did spend more than we brought in, but we started the year off with about $2 million balance, so that's why that looks like that. There's a list of the vendors that were paid and the services and charges for those. And then the fund balances at the end of the year. And then there's a list of every parcel that is in those TIF districts attached. I won't go through all of that. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on this very basic report. The Redevelopment Commission is also required to do a couple other things throughout the year. So at our next meeting in May, we will determine whether or not there's any excess TIF. And those letters have to go to all of the other taxing entities in the county. And that has to be done by June 15th. And then we're also required to do an analysis of the tax impact of our TIF districts on the other taxing entities annually. And so Jeff Peters always prepares that and presents that to the Redevelopment Commission, and he'll present that to you as well. Those taxing entities will be invited to that meeting as well. And so happy to answer any questions that you have on this, if there are any.
Krista, thank you for your amazing job that you're doing. Keep up the good work, you and Dana. Do great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a big job.
There is a second report, and I just need to scroll on down to it if there aren't any questions. We do have a redevelopment authority. I don't know if, well, I know Josh knows that because he's on it. But it only meets required once a year. Here are the members: Josh Prine, Les Tabling, and Bobna Amin. So the Redevelopment Authority was formed in 2019, and this was because of the bond for the amphitheater and the US 31 project. So those three administer and sign all of those claims and paperwork for both of those large projects. And so this is their report, their finances. You can see the revenue received and expenses paid, and then the redevelopment expenditures. And these are going to look really high because of the bond. I mean, we have a $10 million bond, and so obviously we don't bring in that much money through this TIF, but through the bond we do. So Myers Construction, they're building in the amphitheater. So in 2021, they were paid $3.2 million. And then here's just some different things. These are the fund balances, $591,000. You can see the lease bond and the maturity date for that, 2044. Seems like a long way away. It won't be. And then a list of maybe it is. And then there's a list of all the parcels that are in that US 31 TIF. And I don't have the map, but I think I talked about it at the last meeting, where you have the allocation areas where the taxes are collected, and then any parcel that touches US 31, you can spend those dollars there. So there's a difference between where the dollars are collected and where they can be spent. It's a much larger area, and that's true for both the regular Redevelopment Commission properties and then also US 31.
Any questions?
No
for-
baseball analogies, nothing? Like, I'm supposed to be at a baseball game, so. I saw Brett leaving with his baseball backpack, so.
The presentation that you did at the joint meeting with the school board was excellent, Kristen.
Thank
and
you.
That was a good job. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, if you ever want to talk about TIF, give me a call. Thank you.
Those two want to talk about it, I'm sure. Okay, there isn't any other business, so we'll go into council comments, and I'll start alphabetical order with Council President Austin.
I know it seems like the weather's breaking, and you know, kudos to the street department, parks department, police department, and all of our departments. A lot going on in the city. The amphitheater's getting ready to open. It's an exciting time for everyone, so there's a lot of dirt being pushed around the city on the west side, the east side, south side, north side, so everyone be careful, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. So stay in alphabetical order. I'm going to go with the Mayor's Youth Council. Morgan Harvey.
So right now, the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council is wrapping everything up for the year. We are going to have our end-of-the-year ceremony and induct our new members in a couple weeks. So exciting, kind of turning over the year. And our Wi-Fi project should be up and running probably next month.
Awesome. That's a great project that everybody is excited about.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hukins,
No remarks, sir.
thinking about baseball, Bob, or
Well, I'm an Orioles fan too, so I mean, it's just, I'm not sure the record's any better either, so.
You're a glutton for punishment, huh?
Right.
Lisa, Ms. Jones?
I just have a quick question for Chip. Do you guys have an agenda yet for the opening day of the amphitheater on, like, when all the ribbon cuttings and all that kind of stuff are going to be?
We do.
Awesome.
Actually, you should be getting it in the mail the next day or two.
Okay, great.
We just printed actually invitations today.
Okay,
so.
good.
I think you're on the list. I'm just
But May 20th is the first event. That's out there. So in case somebody's still wondering, the first event.
Ribbon cutting in the morning and then that's that evening.
Okay. All right, I believe they're going to make it, it looks like to me. Anything else, Lisa?
That's it. Thank you.
Ann McGinnis?
I have no comments tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Irene? Nally?
Nope, nothing from me. Thank you.
Josh? Prime?
Nothing nice, sir.
Sean Taylor?
Nothing, sir?
Jane Rhodes?
Just one thing, Morgan, I was doing trail patrol today. It's what I do, and go out, and the amphitheater has the water bottle filling things, and those started with Mayor's Youth Council ideas several years ago, so kudos. And they're out there, and they're very prominent. Looks great.
Okay, I don't have anything to add.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.